Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Facts on the Ground. I am Misty Winston, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Jesse Zerwell. Today, I'm very excited to welcome back friend of the show, independent journalist, producer and co-host of News Dive Radio, also writes with Left Voice, and has been covering on the ground the Bessemer protests and strikes and unionization efforts. That's a hard word, unionization. Christ.
Say it 5 times
Anyways.
fast.
No, I'm not trying that. I couldn't even do it the first time, Jesse. Anyway, I am super happy to welcome my friend, Sam Carliner, to the show. Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So you have been in Alabama. First of all, you went with Left Voice, correct? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, when did you get down there, and what was your experience like when you kind of first got into town? What was the energy like? What was the atmosphere like? I'm just curious, like what I mean, was there like a certain energy involved in what was going on down there?
So that's a really interesting question. So first of all, we had actually someone down before I got here who's been doing a lot of the reporting. And then I and 3 other people drove down. Oh, it's been like almost 2 weeks, I think. Not this past Monday, but the Monday before, I think, is when we arrived. And we went straight to an action outside of the BHM1 facility, which is where the union effort was going on. And we arrived, and there were people sort of canvassing, like talking to cars, and immediately it started raining and we left. But I think one thing that's you notice first is like the Uber drivers here are like super supportive. Like we had one Uber driver who we were talking to who he just started going off immediately about how like there needs to be a union and capitalism and everything. So that was super cool. So admittedly, I've been doing more background stuff or like promoting, but one recurring theme we found, and the Taki, the original person who was here reporting for us, she found when going like to people's houses and stuff, is that the community is super supportive. Like we talked to a restaurant, or not a restaurant, we went to a restaurant and we talked to the guy working there. He seemed to support it. And yeah, in general, the community does seem very supportive of it. And you can kind of tell, like the area we're staying in, the houses are very run down. There's no sidewalks. Like this is a place that has been screwed over. So it sort of makes sense, I think, that people would support the union effort, at least in the area we're staying in. There hasn't been any like obvious energy though. Like when we've talked to people, people are supportive, but there hasn't really been a lot of like people turning up and signs everywhere you go. Like people will put up supportive signs and all, but like it's not, I guess, like how some people may interpret it, not being in the area. I mean, it does feel like there hasn't been like an obvious like huge campaign. It's more just that the people who know what's going on seem to be supportive of it.
How
Right.
much do you think of that is because of Amazon's efforts to squash any kind of organization? Or, I mean, they're doing a lot of shady business. I mean, it's Amazon. I don't know why that's kind of redundant. Shady business and Amazon is like the same thing. So, but I mean, has anybody been talking about that kind of stuff? Like what have you noticed about that?
So that's definitely a thing when you're near the facility. I mean, I think you shared, and for people who don't know, I and 2 other people were at the facility reporting, and the cops came, and the cops of the town are working for Amazon, like to keep people away. So we actually had 2 of our reporters get harassed by the cops. So that's a thing.
Were these public police or private security?
Public, but they're being paid to work for Amazon,
Right.
which I think is such a good, perfect metaphor for the role of police, but that's another conversation for another day. But I think, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people here, it's not even that Amazon has been effective, it's just that Alabama, it's a right to work state. It's been super gerrymandered, whatever history, and my understanding, there is a lot of history of the labor movement here. It was killed in the many ways that our country has killed organizing. And I think that's still there. People are not interested in or don't know a lot about a union. Like, for example, we've heard from a lot of people that there have been workers who, and I think this at least, again, it's hard to tell literally like what the overall vibe of everything is, but a sense I've gotten is that for the most part, a lot of the workers aren't even necessarily passionately for or against the union. It's like, well, like it's this sense of, I don't really know a lot about a union. I'm not too tapped into this. But
I know I'm getting screwed. So
let me just ask you right there, Sam, because I'm not as familiar with what's happening in this this situation as you are. Can you explain the sort of the location of Amazon there, like their compound, and what the workers are demanding for those like me who don't know very much about it?
Well, so I think one thing that's important to clarify is that it doesn't, and this is a thing that I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, but it feels very much not as led by the workers as it could be, as I and I'm sure the rest of Left Voice, would be supportive of it being. It feels a lot more organized by like the union bureaucracy. But I don't want to linger on that too much because I want to answer your first question. What was your first question again?
Well,
what's the location?
What's the location? Yeah.
Well, geographically too, in Alabama, where is the location? And then I guess structurally,
what community is it in, like in? And
and is it a huge,
and
like the Facebook compound is huge in the middle?
It's an invasion.
The
These
suburbs
people invade your community and take it over.
So I'm just wondering if it's something massive just planted in the town.
No, I wouldn't say so. So we're right outside of Birmingham. In fact, I'm still here. We can talk about this also, but we were literally driving to go home and found out that miners in Alabama are about to go on strike. So we literally just turned the car around and we're like, we're going to report on this too. So we're right now in Alabama still. But we've been staying like in Birmingham. And the Bessemer facility that in the town Bessemer is like 20-ish, 15, 20 minutes from where we are. And it's 15, 20 minutes to downtown Birmingham. I'm not the best with the geography, but the facility is in this industrial park. So it doesn't, it stands out because it's like the biggest area in the industrial park, but it's not necessarily in like the center of the city. It is sort of, not buried away, but it's in a rural part outside of the city, but like right by the city. But I think, one, and I know I already went into this, but I think one thing that's worth noting is this is a like really screwed over community. I believe 1 in 4 people are living below the poverty line. It's a largely Black community. So I think that shapes a lot of it. And that's one thing that a lot of people have been covering, that this seemed like an easy, like, these are just people who are going to be desperate to work, who won't know their rights, and who we can use in our fulfillment center. And
yes, that's exactly what I meant by invasion, because people like Amazon or Walmart, they come in and they put their store in your small, rural, maybe lower to middle class sort of community, and they will take over. They will close all of the smaller businesses. They will become the sole employers of your community. and they will bet on the fact that you will just be desperate for a job. And so you'll come in and you'll work a shitty ass job for shitty ass wages, and you'll do it and smile. And they just decimate communities.
And not just that they'll have cheap labor, but they'll have surplus labor as well. People who are looking for work, and Amazon's either not hiring or denying them somehow, or the job market is in such a state that Amazon is not hiring. But yeah, they don't just want cheap labor, they want to have that surplus as well. So if somebody walks out because they're not allowed to go to the bathroom for 12 hours, Amazon can be like, hey, next in line. And that's not to talk down on any of the employees. I mean, people need to work and
of course.
survive.
I actually wanted to ask Sam about that. Like, because we've heard a lot of horror stories about the way that employees are treated at Amazon. I know that you guys have talked to some actual employees. What are some of the conditions? Like, what are some of their main complaints about their specific, what do they call them? Fulfillment centers? Is that what they call them? It's like Jesse called it a compound. I think that's pretty, I like that. But yeah, so what are the workers saying, that their main complaints are?
So the first thing that comes to mind is the heat. And having been here, I mean, I can attest to it. It's very hot down here, can get very humid. And one thing they've been saying is that the facility, you're there 12-hour shifts or 10-hour shifts. I think it might be 10-hour shifts. It's 10 or 12. I think it's 10. Read articles on Left Voice for the specifics. But yeah, these are long shifts, physical labor, and so hot. And one thing we heard is that they didn't have fans for the longest time, and they only installed fans in the winter because that was when the union effort started forming. So I think the first thing everyone talks about is heat and how hot it is. Another thing is that you have like no time for breaks. Like people have talked about lunch, you get like at most like 5 minutes to eat. Like you have like and again, with all of the number things, read the coverage.
No, and you're tired. I get it.
What kind of meal can you eat in 5 minutes?
You can't.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Come on.
And then one interesting thing, I don't think a lot of people have mentioned this as a complaint. They've just mentioned it as a fact. But one thing that I think is really important to highlight is the isolation, that there's no opportunity to talk to your fellow workers. And I actually think there's, you can't, like you're not allowed to. And of course there's the problem with just how that makes it harder. And that actually is part of why it's been so hard to get a sense of which way people think that the vote is going to go, because no one knows what their coworkers are thinking. They don't talk to them. So from the union standpoint, that's concerning enough. But also, like, even if there was no union effort, or even if the union was already formed, just I think it highlights the isolation. Like, these are people who you're spending hours and hours on end with, and like so many people don't even know their coworkers on their own shift. And so to me, that's
like, intentional.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But that to me,
that's what Marx would call the alienation of laborers.
Yes.
Yeah, good reference.
Division of labor, but essentially the alienation of laborers. Yeah, and Misty's right. It's done intentionally.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not dumb. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Bezos does not, like, come on. You don't get to be like evil genius billionaire without being an evil genius. He knows exactly what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
He's a terrifying human being. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, I'm not scared of him.
I'm not either, but he just gives me the creeps.
I will add also, or sorry, not to like defend Jeff Bezos. It may sound like for a second, but like, because you mentioned that he knows what he's doing. And that's true. I absolutely think it's intentional to isolate people, but also I think it's just that the demands of what these people have to do to meet their quota. I think that, I mean, you couldn't meet the quota if you were talking to your coworkers, which I don't think that's good, because these are impossible quotas that a lot of the workers have been saying, even when they're not talking to people, they can't meet them. But I think you're right. It's like super important to highlight he knows what he's doing. But then I also think, I just wanted to add, there's also the quota aspect of it where like, even if it wasn't so intentional, it's also just a lot of it comes from the fact that they're so overworked that even if Jeff Bezos was like cool with people talking to their coworkers, they wouldn't be able to because of the demand that they have.
Right.
But
and
the
that's
two
why
tie
it's not a
together,
defense of Jeff Bezos, because I mean, I'm sure he's the one that came up with the quotas, or at least he had to have approved them at some point. Like, he's like really just a scumbag. Sorry. I mean, I know you're trying to be diplomatic a little bit, because, you know.
No, I'm not even trying to be diplomatic. I was just trying to like expand, because I thought you brought up a good point. I just want to like expand on like even beyond him, like even just
well, I think at this point he's probably so disconnected from reality, first of all, but then also just the day-to-day goings on at Amazon. I doubt he's very involved. I mean, at this point he's like in a board meeting every once in a while, and he's delegated everything else so that he can do his creepy billionaire stuff.
I mean, my take is
I could be wrong.
No, the way I see it, I think you're right, and I think that it's. And this is important for me to frame, just because I feel like there's a lot of sentiment even here, like in Alabama, where the problem isn't like business or capitalism. It feels like the problem is Amazon, that Amazon is like this, and Jeff Bezos are like particularly greedy and horrible people. And I think I feel it's very important to highlight that, I mean, yes, they are particularly greedy, but they're not particularly greedy because Jeff Bezos is a particularly like cruel person. It's because Amazon has just particularly mastered.
You can be that particularly greedy. Yeah. You can be that greedy, but you like, we need to make sure that there's a system where people who are that greedy can't exploit the system in order to fulfill their greed, because that's ridiculous. So I mean, be that greedy, homie, go for it. You know, eat your heart out, but no, you don't get to have all that. You know,
absolutely.
I think if you're worth around $200 billion, that you got there by being greedy. It didn't just fall.
For sure.
Yeah, you can.
For sure. You cannot reach that level of wealth without exploiting the fuck
as much as possible. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I just wanted to highlight, because I do think there's like, and not saying that
you're absolutely right,
like tendency to frame it as like Bezos or Amazon. It's like, no, it's capitalism, and Amazon is just the best
point, actually,
type of way to do it.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point, because you're right. It does way too often get framed as like Dr. Evil, Jeff Bezos, Amazon is, you know, the bane of everybody's existence. And that's true, but that's only because they've been able to exploit a system that has permitted them to get to that level of psychopathy. So, I mean, we have to deal with the system. And you're right. That's so important to highlight over and over and over and over and over again, so that people get it. You have to look beyond the surface. It is the system. So yes, that is an excellent point.
Thank you.
Excellent point.
Sam, what's been the response of the surrounding community, those who may not be necessarily participating in the activism that's going on?
Well, you kind of talked about that a little bit.
No, but I think it is good highlighting, because one thing I can add on is that a lot of the community.
Well, I mean more so like, what's the attitude of the people who, you know, like you said, it's not that big of a an event what's going on, and it seems mostly controlled by union people, but I'm curious, in the community that surrounds that area, you know, are they checked out? Are they invested in what's happening? Is it a mix of both? Because, you know, Alabama's not necessarily known as quote unquote liberal state. So when it comes to things like this, I could very easily picture, I mean, I've been to Alabama before. I can figure, even in Birmingham, I could very easily picture, these commies or these hippies or whatever shit people would want to throw. So yeah, just trying to get a general feel for the atmosphere.
I think the fact that it's happening in Birmingham plays a big role. Like, because I actually will say I'm loving Birmingham way more than I expected, being like super northeastern. It's been like way more progressive and friendly than I was expecting from Alabama, and I am sure that, and from people we've talked to, apparently that's a Birmingham thing. That it's like one of those pockets,
Yeah.
I do think that plays a big role. I again, it's been hard to get a sense because you can only talk so much about it, and it's hard to. But from everyone we've talked to, I get the sense that overall the community supports it, or at least parts of the community that we've been around support it, but they have acknowledged, like, yeah, Alabama is like a very anti-union state. Like, it is. And yeah, it is hard to gauge given how many people we've talked to.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that it's unfortunate that it's happening in Alabama. And the conspiratorial, like, tinfoil hat wearing part of me is like, wonder if this is even organic, or like you said, it's more run by union organizers. So is this like a thing where, well, this will never, nobody would be surprised if this failed in Alabama. So let's have an uprising in Alabama so that everybody, like, that's just the weird part of my brain that questions everything all the time. But yeah, we need something like that in a someplace where it's more likely to gain some traction.
Well, I would say I think you're right that Alabama comes with its challenges, but I also do think a lot of the reason why it drew so much attention was that it is happening in a right to work state. Like, no one would have expected it to happen in Alabama. And then another thing, and this is actually really central to like a lot of people we've talked to, is that Black Lives Matter, the movement last summer, not to be confused with the organization, because I think those are two very distinct things, but the movement, Black Lives Matter, inspired the union effort. And we've talked to people who have said, because it is such a Black community here of exploited, oppressed Black people, and this has been a thing that even maybe the more, union bureaucrat people who politically have hard issues with, they at least, I don't know if it was them. We've talked to people who have been involved, like some workers and whatnot, who have been, and it's been reported on by other places too, that a lot of the people who've driven the union effort were inspired by Black Lives Matter. And one thing we've been covering separately of even the union effort is that there's this decent like movement here for abolition or against police violence, for Black Lives Matter, the movement. And so I do think that you're correct that Alabama has a lot of challenges that maybe could get in the way of the union forming, but that also I think it would be hard to imagine like the union effort that we're looking at being anywhere near the same thing if it had taken place in a different community,
Yeah. No, that's fair. That makes 100% sense. That's just the weird conspiratorial part of my brain where I fucking think everything is, these people are crazy. Anyways, so I also wanted to talk to you about your piece from yesterday because I found it super interesting and infuriating. There's actually, it's almost like ridiculous to say it out loud. So basically they have to pay a tax to even have the Amazon in their community. Okay, just you go ahead. You explain the nonsense that is this.
Yeah, well, so I will explain it, I guess, from the point of view of the Alabama politicians, because those are the only people it could make sense to, is that Amazon is bringing jobs to this community.
Yeah, it's always that.
So
It's
we need to
so
incentivize them.
generous of them.
And it's similar to like the shit that Amazon got during when they had their whole "where's our second headquarters going to be" sweepstakes, which I would say is like the first time that their reputation took like a really big public hit, because they were like, we're going to go to all these cities, and then people were like, wait, these cities are like promising like obscene things that'll screw over the community.
Yeah, and the big lie there too is that it was going to create jobs. No, they were going to transfer people, mostly people who already work for Amazon, to those locations. Maybe they'd create some new jobs
and destroy all of the other jobs
right
in the
right.
community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Long Island City, where they wanted to set up shop, and it's very vibrant, and it's very gentrified at this point, but an Amazon compound would just turn it into a capitalist hellhole, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so they didn't get away with that, fortunately. But what they are sort of pulling from that playbook here, where Amazon moves their facility to Bessemer, and what the politicians in Alabama did is to incentivize Amazon to move to Bessemer instead of other places. They are subsidizing the facility. So basically, over the course of 10 years, the Amazon is getting paid a certain amount for their stay. And the way that they're getting paid by the state government is through the Bessemer occupational tax, which means that every single worker, not even if you work at Amazon, just if you are a worker in Bessemer, Alabama, you have to pay 1% of your tax directly to Amazon.
Wow.
I think
What
also
the
I think also
fuck?
Birmingham has it too, but I need to double check. But
That's
read my
It's-
article. But
that
yeah,
is
no, I have it right here in
fucked
front of me. I
up.
should
Yeah.
like just be looking at it. But yeah, so
I should remember more of it since I wrote it. But
yeah, so it's 1% over the course of 10 years. Yeah, yeah.
And people can say, well, it's only 1%, but that
it's
doesn't
like
that
the
doesn't
second
matter.
wealthiest
No, but
company in the
No,
world.
but no, why?
Yes,
why
and they
should
don't pay taxes at all. And
Right.
also, Sam points out here that I mean, like what is it? 1 in 4. I just lost it. Oh, yeah, 1 in 4 people live below the poverty line. It's a company that makes billions of dollars. Jeff Bezos could give $105,000 bonuses to all $1.2 million Amazon employees and still be as rich as he was before the pandemic. Like this dude doesn't need your 1%.
Right.
Fuck off, Jeff
Yeah,
Bezos. You don't need the one. Fuck off.
but-
That's so
and
gross.
The point is not the percentage. The point is that
Money at all.
that people are forced to pay this tax to
The shithead
one of the worst corporations on the face of the planet.
that treats employees like absolute garbage. It's like human rights abuses. No
And-
bullshit.
And
Come
they
on.
don't have to. They don't have to do that. It's not
No.
like Amazon is in crisis and struggling.
They're
to-
doing just fine.
Yeah.
They're
So
doing better than they've ever been.
Yes. Like, does anybody know how much they like what they're Sam? Maybe you know. I can look it up real quick. But like how much do they make each year in
I
profit?
don't know.
I'm gonna look it up because I'm like, it's just gonna piss me off even more. But fuck Jeff Bezos. I'm sorry. Like this shit just pisses me off. These people in Bessemer, Alabama, don't owe you shit. They
Right.
don't owe you shit, homie. You owe them a good job, a decent wage, benefits, vacation time, decent working conditions, hour-long lunch breaks, 15-minute, smoke breaks, whether you smoke or not. Like, go fuck yourself. They don't need to pee in bottles. You need to get your shit in check, homie. Sorry. Rant
No,
over.
go
God,
off.
he pisses me off.
Yeah.
Ugh,
but
so irritating.
there's also, I guess, sort of the like lateral transfer of it to Amazon's, or maybe vertical downward transfer of this to Amazon's companies like Audible, for example. So I don't know of
Okay,
any
net
of any.
income, $21.33 billion. You don't need their 1%. Oh, he's so gross.
21.33.
Yeah. Yes. You know, really, you need poor people to give you 1% of their paycheck or their taxes? Really? And you need to make them pee in bottles and, work 10, 12-hour days on their feet, constantly running, not being able to interact with other human beings, afraid to like stop and take a breather or stretch or hydrate. Fuck
Yeah.
off.
Well, it's been, and Sam, maybe you can speak to this, but and we talked about this a little before. It's structured this way on purpose, and there's a reason they set up shop in a town like Bessemer. Is that how it's pronounced?
Bessemer, yeah.
Yeah,
Bessemer.
Bessemer.
Yeah, it's because they know that there are lots of vulnerable people there who need work and can be exploited as they are being exploited. And it's not.
And those communities, government officials need the money that Amazon's going to promise them and the
Yeah,
donations to their reelection campaigns. And
let's
yeah.
be real. Do you think Jeff Bezos sat down with the board members and was like, I know where there's, I don't know how the fuck he talks. I don't know why I started doing a Southern accent, but he would be like,
Because we're talking about the South. So
yeah,
Yeah, probably.
he would be like, you know where there's a gold mine? You know where we should set up shop? Bessemer, Alabama.
That is a gold mine for him. That is a gold mine for
Well,
him.
yeah,
Desperate
yeah.
people who
And
need work.
I'm not trying to knock the community whatsoever. I'm just
No.
saying that
No, I'm pissed off for them.
it's an on purpose and purposeful exploitation of a vulnerable community.
well, and I think that's super on point, because I mean, it is technically it's about the money, but it's not even about the money, it's about the power.
Right.
Which is why one thing that we've reported on is that Amazon is like putting so much effort into getting people to vote against the union. Like they're sending people texts all the time before they were holding meetings, like every day, like here's why unions are bad. I think they got shut. I know they got shut down. I think it's because those are illegal. I could be wrong, but they're spending like so much money against the union effort, because to them it's not even the union doesn't scare them because they lose money. I mean, it scares them because they would lose control over the company.
Mhm.
I think that if, and obviously this is speculation, who knows, but I think if Jeff Bezos could give up, like, I don't know, if he had to give up half of his fortune just to keep Amazon workers from ever unionizing, I think he would, because it's for him, it's about the power. Yeah.
I would say you're probably right about that, actually. I mean, and it's really no different than how much money and effort they spent trying to destroy Shama Swan. I mean, because she doesn't really threaten them like financially necessarily. I mean, he doesn't need her one town or city to, I mean, he can put an Amazon wherever the fuck he wants, really. And so, but she stood against him, and I think that's what pisses him off. It's not, I mean, it really is. He's a megalomaniac. I mean, you don't get to that. I'm telling you, like, I don't think it's hyperbolic or overly dramatic to say that you don't reach that level of power and wealth without being a psychopath. It's just part of it. I mean, you have to be willing to
reach that type of power.
Yes, because you have to be willing to exploit people and hurt people, and you have to be willing to be ruthless. And yeah, I think that takes a level of psychopathy that he's at the top of. I think he's
Yeah, I don't think there's any argument about that. We're seeing it in broad daylight, and of course, Amazon's going to work to marginalize workers who are striking or trying to unionize as much as they can. That's just a given.
Of course. have you heard anything about like other potential cities or other Amazon locations talking about trying something similar to this, or is it spreading at all?
It is.
Okay, good.
That's a thing I haven't read about as much, but I know there are reports. I think Left Voice wrote something, but I know that there have been reports going around that in a bunch of different cities, Amazon workers are contacting the RDWSU, which is the union that the Bessemer workers are trying to unionize with. So already it is spreading, and I think it's going to be very hard to stop it from spreading. I think even if the union effort fails here, I mean, obviously, I think it's going to be a setback for sure if the union effort fails here. So I don't want to like paint this picture of like, oh, everything will be all right. But I do think that I see it. I think whatever happens, this has sort of set the course of history. And we are going to see ripples for probably a while.
Yeah. Well, I think we're kind of at a point now where it has become so blatant and people are now, it's impossible to ignore. And so more people are pissed off, justifiably so. And more people, I think, are willing to start challenging, the level or the system at a certain level, not to the level that they need to be in any way. But I do think you're right. I think that like that sort of, my mom's cat is so loud. Anyways, I do think that we are seeing, I mean, we're seeing it across a lot of different things. It's like they're desperately trying to squash it. But a lot of different movements are picking up steam in different ways. So, I mean, I think that's why the censorship thing is, but that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day.
Yeah. A big problem though is people who are far removed from what's happening in Alabama, for example.
And it's not getting any coverage, which Sam, seriously, thank you for going and covering it. Thank you to Left Voice for sending people to cover it.
Well, thank you to everyone who like supported our work.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah. Yeah.
But I was going to say, I think the problem, or a big part of the problem, is that people are addicted to the convenience of Amazon Prime. It's almost like an offer you can't refuse. I canceled my membership, not to say that not to be high and mighty, but
no, I don't think that that's high and mighty. I think that that's, I mean, but I don't even know that it's necessarily about like, because I can just speak to the fact that like in my little town, my mall is dead. We have like a couple like of those like weird kind of half department store, half grocery store, like a Walmart sort of a situation. We have a couple of those, and that's really all we have like in terms of like shopping and like finding things. And so unless you want to like drive, if I want to like drive into the city, it's hard to find. And even then you have to like go for Amazon has literally everything. Yeah. And that's the whole point of, they really do have like a monopoly on stuff.
They're also cheaper so much of the time.
They are cheaper. And it's really, especially, like I have kids and they need something for like a school project or whatever. I can't find, like, it's really hard to find some of that shit. You go to Amazon and there it is, and it will be at your door in 2 days. And, it is really difficult to, and I'm not justifying shopping with Amazon. I'm really not like,
but I'm not trying to guilt people either. I mean, sometimes you have to use it.
I don't want people to get like the wrong idea. I'm not shaming you for using Amazon. I'm a mother. I 100% understand the panic of, hey mom, I need this thing by Monday. And you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, why are you just telling me now? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you don't have a lot of options. And Amazon really does have that kind of monopoly. So I'm really not shaming anybody for using Amazon. I 100% get it. I'm just saying we need to fight back against the system that allows Amazon to have that much power and control and, just complete, it's a complete, seriously, it's monopolistic. It really is. It's a monopoly on stuff. I know that sounds weird, but that's really kind of what
that they don't have competition. Like there's no businesses that compete with them.
No. I mean, there are some other stores that have like decent shipping, and they might be like kind of comparable on price, but usually Amazon, you cannot beat price. And then the shipping, it depends. Like if you can get free shipping, some people you have to spend a certain amount of money to get free shipping. I mean, it's really hard for anybody to compete. And again, I'm not like praising Amazon or like excusing anything that they do. I'm just saying that I get it, like as a normal, such a weird word, but like as an average person, like just trying to survive, like sometimes Amazon is your only option, and that sucks, and we need to change that.
Yeah, well, just as an example, the medications I take, I go to the pharmacy at the nearby Walmart, and I don't go to that pharmacy because I like Walmart. It's the cheapest option in the town I live in, or near the town I live in. So yeah, there's definitely that element of it.
It all goes back to capitalism
that we should bear in mind. But we should also bear in mind too, Amazon's basically being a bedfellow with the CIA and hosting its server. That is not something to be taken lightly. And
no, and then the dude owns the Washington Post too. Like, what the hell kind of conflict of interest is that, y'all? No, you don't get to have business dealings with the CIA and then own a newspaper.
Right.
That's not okay. That's ridiculous. I don't understand why anybody thinks that that's like a thing that should be allowed in a functioning society. That's ridiculous.
Surprisingly, I found that a lot of people don't know that Amazon hosts
You're right.
the CIA's server. Yeah.
You're right.
There's a huge
problem that goes back to the failure of the media and the propaganda and all the bullshit, and it's exhausting.
Yeah, and why is CNN going to report on that when they're citing Washington Post quotes and headlines every night as news?
They're sponsored by, and yeah.
I mean, I just think, why would you report on the union effort when Ruh-Roh Biden's dogs
are pooping
in the White House?
Right? Breaking news: the dog pooped. Really? Yeah. And that was the AP put that out.
That was the Associated Press.
Are you kidding me, you guys?
If I was working for them, I would feel very ashamed.
I would be like, I don't have words. I honestly don't have words for the level of ridiculousness that takes for the AP to put out like breaking news, a dog pooped.
If only they'd done it today, they could have maybe gotten away with it.
Right.
We're recording on April.
I mean, how many countries are we bombing? And then there's a unionization effort going on in Alabama, and we're still in a pandemic, but that seems like media is not talking about that anymore. I guess that's over. Yeah. And we don't talk about kids in cages anymore because they're overflow facilities. And AOC's gaslighting about how Republicans didn't care for 4 years, and now they suddenly care, when she pretended to care for 4 years and suddenly doesn't. There's nothing to talk about, you guys. Let's talk about dogs pooping in the hallway of the White House.
The president can't walk.
Yeah. We have a non-functioning president. I mean, I'm tired of people pretending like that's like a rude thing to say. No, the dude cannot finish a sentence. He can't walk up a flight of stairs.
I don't think it's rude to say when you're saying it about a war criminal, a career war criminal.
No, and somebody with that much power. Like, I get that he's really not in charge of anything, like at all. Like he's
it's
not.
Like a Bush presidency. The vice president's running everything. I mean, not to let him Biden off the hook or Bush.
No, but I think it really doesn't matter. Period.
I think it's worse though, because at least Bush Jr., as moronic as he is, was at least cognizant of reality. Joe Biden is off in some kind of la la land.
He has no idea what's happening.
I hope he disappears too forever.
You see the press conference?
No, I don't watch that shit.
It was painful.
Which one?
Yeah. The only one he's done. He's only done
his
one.
First one, yeah.
I mean, it was bad because literally all the reporters who had been complaining about how they weren't getting a press conference, who had been whining the whole time, like then gave him like the most softball questions.
And they didn't ask about Julian Assange. They all complained for 4 years about how mean Trump was to Jim Acosta, and they took away this press pass. And now they're whining about, like, some douche canoe from Fox News is whining about not getting called on. Fuck off, dude. They're torturing Julian Assange. Grow up here and like say something, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ugh. Sorry,
But
I'm very ranty today.
No, go ahead. It's a ranty day. But I was gonna say
very fired up for some reason.
Along with like
it's a very ranty Thursday.
We should do a fuck your faves with Comrade Misty for real.
Yes.
Like I'm in that mood right now.
Oh, what is that? I was gonna say, yeah, no, Joe Biden just talking. It was painful. He really was just like falling asleep at the press conference. Like honestly, I mean, it's he was forming cohesive sentences, I guess, but just tone wise, it was the worst one of the worst times I've ever seen him, honestly.
You know, and it's like elder
bad.
abuse at this point, but I just don't give a fuck because he's Joe Biden and fuck off. Like, I don't care. It is kind of gross though. Like his wife should really be ashamed of herself. I'm just saying, come for me if you want, but that's.
I'm not laughing at elder abuse.
As long as you call her
laughing at Joe Biden being
right. As long as we call her doctor. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, seriously, I can't imagine like allowing your husband. I mean, maybe she just doesn't like him at all, which listen, girl, I don't blame you. But
she's suckling at the teat of power now. So
yeah, I know, but she could still hate her husband,
up.
and like still that there's plenty of those relationships in Washington that are like for convenience only. Like I got to get elected, and so I need to be married and like have a family and like put on that veneer. Right. But you know, I'm gonna have billions of affairs, and my wife's gonna hate me and sleep with the pool boy, and you know, there's a lot of that going on in Washington.
I don't think Joe had affairs so much as raping,
inappropriate touching of children.
Women. Yeah, inappropriate touching of children, raping women.
If this video doesn't get us thrown off YouTube, I don't know what's going to.
I would be honored.
I
mean, all we got to do is talk about like COVID and
these are things that need to be talked
QAnon.
about.
I said QAnon. That's it. It's over, Jesse. It's over
right.
for us.
QAnon.
If you say it 3 times, do you get like immediately banned from life?
Yeah, but you got to look in the mirror when you say it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, so anyways, is there anything else you want to talk about Amazon? Because I do want to talk to you about the strike that you guys like literally turned tail and like went back like, nope, we're not done yet. But is there anything else I'm missing about Amazon that you think people should know?
I really want people to read the article that Tati wrote. She wrote a few, but the like
we can link them in the show notes. I've read them all. Like I have yours pulled up right now.
The long one with the long title, because one thing that I haven't seen anyone other than Left Voice report on is that the people who are running this campaign, there was like no worker participation. I mean, there was some. I don't want to like downplay, but it really, I was very disappointed about the lack. Like it was very gate kept. It felt very top down. And so when everyone on Twitter was like being like, yeah, like Nina Turner shared a video and Bernie Sanders came to visit, and like just being on the ground and being like, guys, this actually like is really weird. Like these people are not interacting with workers at all. I think that that's a really important point to highlight. I don't want to talk too much about it just because I think that the article highlights it way better. But I do just hope people will read that article, because I think it brings to light some of the stuff that I would have liked to see more people reporting on.
Yeah,
we'll
link to that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, we'll link to I'll link, like we can, or all Jess usually does it, but we can link to Tati's article and then the one that you wrote yesterday that we just talked about, but then we can just link to Left Voice too, and then everybody can find all of the stuff that you guys have been doing down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, because it's all, I mean, you guys really have done a great job of like trying to really cover it on the ground. So again, thank you for doing it. I mean, seriously, I know that sounds like weird, but I mean, maybe not weird, just not the right word, but yeah, I know, you guys know I love independent journalists. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you guys were on your way back And then you heard about another strike. So this is a minor strike. Is that right?
Yeah, I actually am not well read on this, so I'll answer.
No, that's
as
fine.
best
I just
can,
wanted to
but
because it's like breaking kind of. So I just wanted to figure out what that's about kind of a little bit.
Yeah, so it's like I think 1,100 miners are saying they're going to go on strike. I think it starts tonight. And my understanding is they're demanding like some serious demands, healthcare, better wages. And so, we're going to go check it out. I actually might not because I am on the spectrum and drained. But we, as in the whole group, are staying and are going to check it out and hopefully get some good reporting and share some of the voices that are there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I would love to have you back on to talk about that more in depth once you guys have some more information on that. But yeah, thanks for coming on to talk about Amazon. I know that you're tired and you're drained, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
No, I was glad to come on.
No, yeah, and you're welcome anytime. And if you ever need, if you are ever feeling like drained and we're talking to you too long, please just tell us to shut the fuck up because we tend to.
I would. I've been good. Don't worry.
Okay. Because we do that. I mean, I'm very self-aware. We do that. So yeah, do you want to tell everybody? I mean, we're going to link to all this crap, but you just want to tell everybody where they can find you, on Twitter and obviously News Dive and Left Voice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Left Voice has got a new website coming out. Yeah.
Coming out. Yeah. May Day.
Yeah.
We're launching it on May Day.
Cool.
Nice.
So no, I'm hyped for that. Yeah. So the best way to find everything I do is through my Twitter handle @SamInTheCan. And from there, there's all my links where you can find my socials and whatnot. But then also in my bio is @NewsDive Radio, which is a podcast I do. And then @Left Voice, there's an underscore. But yeah, find those two, follow them through my thing. That's probably the easiest. And yeah, just every now and then, if you are interested in following the news, type leftvoice.org into your browser and read.
Yeah, and I know you're on a mission to get Left Voice to 10K followers on Twitter by May Day, right? By the launch of the new website. So
also
we can do that.
Instagram 15K we're trying to get to.
Okay, so you guys are dude. You're at 9,628. I can get you that. Come on. Let's go, people. Okay, yeah, we'll get that taken care of. We'll nail that out.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys check out Sam's work on News Dive and Left Voice. Follow him on Twitter, all that good stuff. Thanks for coming on, Sam. I appreciate all the work that you guys have been doing. It's important. So yeah, thanks for doing it.
Well, thank you so much.
And yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye.